refers to all the learning and development that happens in the first 3 years of life. And in some ways, the concept of becoming is more obvious than belonging and being. Because if you just watch babies and toddlers, they will amaze you with all of the changes, all of the skills they gain, all of the knowledge and understandings that they show in the short time they've been alive. It seems like almost daily very young children acquire new skills and knowledge. I think also becoming is about the kind of unfolding of talents and personality and temperament and style that in children, and you see glimmers of those even in very young babies, that some even fairly young babies are kind of jump into the deep end and very active and very busy and want to get involved. And as we spoke about in the previous segment, some babies and toddlers are a little bit slower to warm up. They want to sit on the edges and watch what's going on before they get involved. As we said in the introduction, sometimes you have to look really, really closely at what babies and toddlers are doing and think about what that's telling you about what they're learning, because there's some really obvious developmental milestones in the first 2 or 3 years of life, but a lot of the really significant learning is much more subtle, and you don't really see it unless you know to look for it. So what does the concept of babies and toddlers becoming mean to you, Christy?
I think this is a stage in a child's development where it's important for educators to recognise the skills and talents a child has, to be there to scaffold, to encourage, but also to listen. I think it's important for children to be able to lead and for the educators to just assist them in learning. I think as an educator we need to value the fact that children are very capable.
Sam?
I just think that this is an area I'm so passionate about. I just think babies and toddlers learning is just so amazing. It's just so interesting that they're so curious about how everything works, and you can just see every day they're trying to figure out how things are happening and why they're happening, and I just see them as little scientists experimenting and trying to make sense of their world.
It's the persistence, I think, in their task that grabs me, that they will spend a long time. The children at the moment are enjoying lids and containers of various sizes and posting things in and taking them out, and they will just continue to do that repeatedly. And when we've had those activities out for a little while and we think, oh, okay, they want them back again. And just the time that it takes, to undo we wouldn't spend that enough time. I would just say, look, I can't do it, pass it on to the next person. But they just persist and persist for longer than maybe an older child would.
And yet there's that myth or that cliche about babies and toddlers not having a long attention span. If you know what you're looking at, it's an amazing, as you said, sometimes it's much longer than our attention span.
I think if it interests them, then they spend the time doing it. If it doesn't, then maybe that's why we see that they've got a short attention span. It's not, holding their curiosity.
Yeah, and I think in what you've said, you three have said too, there's that reminder about the kind of wonderful mystery of babies and toddlers that sometimes you don't know. It's important. They're thinking and they're trying things out and they're meaning something. And it must be frustrating to them sometimes that we can't figure out what that thing is, that we don't know what it is they're learning or what it is they're communicating to us. So we've already seen in the first 2 segments, we've seen quite a few examples of babies and toddlers learning. But let's just look now at some clips, a collection of fairly brief clips of different kinds of learning that occur in the first 2 years.
Abby. Oh, good. You can do it. You almost had it. Try again. Good. Lift it up.
You certainly do get a sense of busyness that I'm sure you three experience every day at work. But so much going on. Are there comments you'd like to make about that collection, or any other kinds of learning that particularly interest you or excite you in the children that you work with? That didn't show all the categories of learning that we that you would see.
I suppose again with the persistence, it's Sienna's dropping the balls, but she's not giving up. She's got something or other in her head that she's trying to achieve. What that is, we don't know. We're just wondering. I suppose it's being in awe of that. We're trying to, it's maybe not for any sort of purpose, it's just doing it. And I just find those sorts of things interesting to watch. When the little boy was stacking, his hand hovered over one, but what made him choose the other one first? Just find those sorts of things quite interesting.
Curiosity they display as well. Like children at that age are naturally curious and they want to know how things work, where they go, but they also have the ability to use their imaginations to create. So using the camera as a telephone.
One of the things that I was reminded of in that footage too is just the sheer thrill of moving through space on your own, and the ability that it takes to maneuver just a slight incline, or stepping up or stepping down, just a slight rise in the ground. I remember many years ago someone saying that when babies become able to walk, that it's probably that same feeling that we might have had when we got our driver's licenses, and that you just want to get in the car and drive around because you can, not because you have any place to go. And we saw lots of examples there of older babies or young toddlers, whichever you want to call them, moving objects through space and carrying things. So there's a lot of what might seem to be very simple actions that really are quite significant. Yeah. Sam, did you want to make any comments about, you mentioned before just being so excited or passionate about the learning that's going on. Are there any particular kinds of learning that excite you the most?
Yeah, I find it really interesting when children do start to have that dramatic or pretend play. And even some young babies, like with the phones, it can start quite early, using phones or pretending to feed someone. So I find that quite interesting. We have an area in our room with a kitchen and dolls, and doll play especially is quite a big interest of our children at the moment, just getting the babies and nurturing them and just putting them to bed. All those things I find quite interesting.
Supporting babies and toddlers learning really well, of course, means that educators need to know it when they see it, and need to know how to support it. And I think also it's really important that educators who work with babies and toddlers want to work with babies and toddlers and are excited by it. So could you comment on that, about how you make sure, or how important you think it is that educators who work with babies and toddlers want to be there, and how do you encourage that kind of passion that you mentioned, Sam, and the enthusiasm that's needed? So, Lindsay, do you want to?
I actually asked to work with the babies and toddlers this year. I haven't worked with babies for about 15 years, so I've been with the older children for a long time, and the last 5 years specifically with the preschoolers. And I just thought I wanted to get back to the beginning and watch it from the start. And so I think that made me more open to what was going on. And I did choose some of the staff to work with as well that had that same interest. And I think when that's shared, it can boost everybody, and I think you can make other people excited about what excites you, and that sort of grows from there, I think, and that makes for a great atmosphere for us and for the children.
Sam, what about you? How important do you think it is to quality to have educators who want to be there?
It's essential. Like Lindsay was saying, it's so important to have a team that you're all on the same page with, that you all feel so passionate about really young children's learning, and my team, we often share throughout the day something really exciting that we saw one of the children do, and it's just such a great way to all be on the same page of where the children are at, and just to share just the exciting moments. There's exciting moments every day that, like you said, children learn new skills every day, and there's new social interactions happening every day, so it's really, really essential.
Mm-hmm. And you got to know when those, you got to know what those exciting moments are, don't you, in order to share them.
Yes,
so
and you've got to know what children have learnt before and where they're up to, so that you know when something is new and exciting and was a challenge before.
Yeah.
And I think they say actions speak louder than words. So if you're telling a child, that's great, you've done a great job, look what you've achieved, but you don't actually feel it and you don't share that emotion behind it, children aren't going to believe what you're saying, and so there's no purpose. They sort of lose interest in their enjoyment. So I think it's as well as sharing it with your colleagues, I think you need that passion and you need that joy of the younger children to actually be able to share those challenges and those triumphs with the children.
Yeah. One of the things that when we talk about babies and toddlers, or children in general, children's learning, one of the kind of learning dispositions, I guess, that we want them to have is perseverance, or sticking with something, the kind of confidence to meet challenges, and just a willingness to work hard. I mean, that might sound like we're talking about an adult rather than talking about an under 2 or under 3-year-old, but I think you see evidence of that in very young children, and it's something that educators need to encourage. So we've just got some footage now of a small boy doing probably something that you could see an example of every day in your services, but one that shows hard work and a fair bit of perseverance. Interesting thing is, gets it up there. Does he want to do anything with it, or is it just?
Yeah, but throw it.
For the sake of it.